I always I always feel like this part of the introduction is like that game, Guess Who? I don't know if you've ever played it with a kid, but like it's a description like they're wearing a hat, and you flip everyone down who's not wearing a hat. They're wearing a polka dot shirt. So I like this mystery, Guess Who? And then I always scan the room for who doesn't usually come here to see who's up. So this woman, so not a man, we can eliminate them. I have seen her come into the program and watched her through her sobriety and certainly watched her grow. She goes to an 8 a.m. Zoom meeting that I do um, for AA, and I really enjoy watching her show up daily. And she wears this fuzzy robe and it looks really cozy. And I just really enjoy people who show up for the program. And what I have really gotten to know her through is through general service. And I took a position to be the roundup chair, and I didn't know what the heck I'm doing. And I still don't know what the heck I'm doing, but I have a lot of guides along the way, and she knew what the heck she was doing. So she's a great resource. And when I was trying to see if she would work on this committee with me, I'm like, this woman is organized. She knows how to show up. She's consistent. She knows boundaries, which is really amazing. And, she loves this program. And then it's been really great to get to know her and watch her, I guess, our friendship expand and then friendships with other people. And then at the Halloween party that we had, she had the most amazing outfit on there that someone had made her through the program. And I didn't know she loved to dance. So if you can guess who that is. But I always like to bring it back to the literature, and I've been really stuck on page 276 on the Keys to the Kingdom. And this reminds me of watching this woman expand her friendships and spiritual growth in the program, where it says there is no more aloneness with that awful ache so deep in the heart of every alcoholic that nothing before could ever reach it. The ache is gone and never need return again. Now there is a sense of belonging, of being wanted and needed and loved. In return for a bottle and a hangover, we have been given the keys of the kingdom or the registration position for Roundup. So here she is, Therese.
I'm Therese. I'm an alcoholic. Wow, that was a pretty amazing introduction. And it's perfect because it's very much my experience this year in terms of like the belonging and the acceptance and not having that loneliness, that gut level loneliness that we deal with as alcoholics. Um, so I did say I'm Teresa, I'm an alcoholic, right? Okay, good. Just making sure. Because sometimes I forget that, I am definitely one of those special snowflakes. Um, my actual I'm sober date is August 21st of 2023. However, because I'm a special snowflake, I refuse to let go of my alcohol date, which is December 21st of 2018. So I had an outside issue come up for me, and it caused me to not be sober, and I was back into my disease. So what a sponsor ended up pointing out to me, because I'm such a special snowflake, was this passage from the doctor's opinion that I'm going to read. We believe, and so suggested a few years ago, that the action of alcohol on these chronic alcoholics is a manifestation of an allergy, that the phenomenon of craving is limited to this class and never occurs in the average temperate drinker. These allergic types can never safely use alcohol in any form at all. And for me, I have a lot of outside issues. That's a big part of my story. So you're going to hear quite a bit of the whole gambit of what I've been through in recovery. Um, and once having formed the habit, they found they cannot break it. Once having lost their self-confidence, their reliance upon things human, their problems pile up on them and become astonishingly difficult to solve. Frothy emotional appeal seldom suffices. The message which can interest and hold these alcoholic people must have depth and weight. I have to be able to relate to you. I have to hear my alcoholism in your story. Otherwise, I can't hear it. And this is the most important part. In nearly all cases, these ideas must be grounded in a power greater than ourselves if we are to recreate our lives. This power greater than myself piece is a piece that I've struggled with my entire sobriety, my entire recovery. And I'm going to go into like what happened and what it was like. What it was like. I started partying really young. I was like 14 years old. Actually, my first drink was at 12. So let's go back there. Um, and what had happened is my mom joined the military and she was gone to Germany for Desert Storm. And so my dad was there and my dad was a huge enabler. So I was like, hey, we were at the grocery store. Hey, my friend is coming over tonight. Why don't you buy us a bottle of Mad Dog 2020? And he did. It was grape flavored. I'll never forget. And what happened for me is that I took that first drink and wanted more and more and more and more. You know, I was trying to make sure that I got most of that bottle. And that is just how I roll in everything. You know, like yes and more is my disease. You know, I've heard people say that in here, and it is definitely the case for me. Like, what if I'm looking at the seven deadly sins, gluttony is my jam. You know, that one is the one that I'm like, give it all to me. I have to not feel uncomfortable anymore. And so, you know, it was the same for alcohol. It was the same for a lot of other things. But with alcohol, I remember there was another time early in, well, there's a lot of stories that I have, but I was partying on 6th Street in Austin. I'm from Austin, Texas originally. And there's a lot of clubs in that strip. And I was 16 years old, so I was not allowed in the clubs. But, you know, if you're an alcoholic like I am, you find a way. So I staked out all of the bouncers at those clubs. And I was like, who's going to let me in? Who can I flirt with? And I found the perfect person and got in the club and then, you know, proceeded, like, continued that behavior of like, who's going to buy me a drink? And who's going to, you know, like, how can I get what I need? How can I get what I want? Um, and then there was another time, I have not been a beer drinker. I've got to say that. And the reason why is because it does not get me fucked up fast enough. I want something that's going to do it quick. And so one of the other stories that I have is that I was at a party hanging out with some friends and I don't know, I was like 16, 17, something like that. And they were drinking straight out of the bottle, and that is my jam. Like, give me the whole bottle because I need, like I said, I need to get out of this feeling of discomfort right now. What's the fastest way I can do that? So I drank out of the bottle, like we're all passing around like 5 or 6 bottles. I don't know. I don't remember how much how many bottles were going around. It was quite a few. Um, and I decided that I'm gonna get on the trampoline and jump on the trampoline after I was like not blacked out, but I was getting close. I was feeling pretty good. And so I got on the trampoline and I jumped around. They were like, you're going to throw up. You're going to throw up. Sure enough, I threw up. And then I was like, I felt sober again after I threw up. And I was like, oh, that's not going to work for me. I don't like that at all. So more bottles, you know, of different kind of things, because I was never one of those drinkers who had to stick with the alcohol that I started with. I just drank everything. And so I got back to a place where I was like, okay, I'm cool. I'm doing okay. I am drunk enough. But it was never drunk enough. You know, I mean, it was always like, let's get to the blackout. Let's get to the oblivion. I just don't want to even be on this planet in this way, you know. No pain. So I would get myself there, and it was fun. I had a great time. When I was young, I had such a great time in my alcoholism. So fast forward, I grew up in a family and with well, actually I'm not going to fast forward quite yet. Um, I grew up in a family of alcoholics. So, it's the only way that I knew how to not be or to be comfortable in my skin, pretty much. It was the only solution. There was only one way. And it was alcohol, drugs, the things that would make me feel better. Um, and so yeah, that's the only tool I had, was to escape. And so I did that. Um, and then I met this guy in my early 20s, and he was different from all the other guys that I'd ever hung out with or been with. Um, he had a direction. He was going to go to college and be a computer engineer. Um, and the guys that I had been dating were, so the guy before him. We'll just tell that little story because it is kind of like, yeah. Um, it just tells you how sick I am. Uh, so I met this guy, I started dating him. He ends up getting picked up and going to prison, to jail. And turns out he was getting extricated. I don't extradited, thank you. um, he was here, but he is from Oregon and he was getting extradited back to Oregon. And he would not tell me what was going on. He wouldn't tell me what was happening. And I did a lot of drinking over that. Um, and when I did find out, it was statutory rape. He was getting extradited because of statutory rape. So it's like, oh, wonderful. That's just great. Um, and those were just the kind of relationships that I was in. I liked the bad boys. I liked the, excitement, the adventure. I was addicted to that too. I'm definitely a drama junkie. Um, Not so much anymore, but I was definitely a drama junkie. Um, so anyway, I meet this other guy, and he is normal, like completely normal. And I did not know what to do with that, but I did know I wanted to take him hostage and keep him for as long as I could. So in order to do that, I my drinking started to look different. Um, and for a long time, because of that, I thought that I was not an alcoholic, that I was, and really where I started was in Al-Anon. I started with that program because that was my problem. Um, this alcoholism, that was just secondary. Um, Turns out that's not true, which is why I'm standing at this podium right now instead of a different one. But so he was my higher power. And I did that for a while. My drinking changed and it became a lot more secretive. That was the big change in my alcoholism, is that I started keeping it on the down low and making it so that he wouldn't find out how bad I was. Because if he found out how bad I was, then he would not want to be with me anymore. And I couldn't reconcile those things. So yeah, my alcoholism changed. It didn't look like my brother's alcoholism. He was a lot louder in his alcoholism in terms of like getting into car wrecks and going to jail and all those kinds of things. That is not part of my story. I don't have DUIs. I have not been to jail. Um, so, for a long time, I was in a great amount of denial about my alcoholism. It was easier, like it took me a long time to reach my bottom because I didn't have a lot of consequences. But as my disease started to progress, my alcoholism started to progress. What happened for me is that I could not show up in any of my relationships. I couldn't show up as a mother. I couldn't show up as a partner. I couldn't show up as a friend or a daughter or a sister. None of those things, you know. I could not show up. It was all about drinking. It was all about numbing and getting what I needed, getting what I wanted. Life was super unmanageable, incredibly unmanageable. Even to the point where I couldn't do the dishes without a drink. I couldn't write my papers in school without a drink. You know, I had to have a drink in order to get life done. Um, so anyway, during that time when I was in that place, I had been working an Al-Anon program and did not know why the fuck that was not working for me. Like it should have worked. And I could not figure it out. I couldn't see that it was my alcoholism that was really preventing me from being able to recover in this program in any meaningful way. The other thing that I've noticed about my recovery is that I like to do the bare minimum. Um, we say all the time that it works if you work it, but for me, um, how can I get just enough relief? Just enough to be okay. And that's what my Al-Anon experience kind of was for me. It was like I was just trying to get just enough relief. I was just trying to do the bare minimum. Like coming into Alcoholics Anonymous, that was overshooting. That was like way too much. You know, like I don't need that. um, so I was in 6 years in Al-Anon, and my life was, because I'm an alcoholic, my life was still unmanageable, and it was getting worse and worse and worse and worse. Um, and I was talking to someone in that program, and I have other outside issues, like I was always an overweight child and became an obese adult. Um uh I have yeah. That is also like an outside issue that I've struggled with. And in the last year, I lost a total of 115 pounds. And the cool thing about that is that, you know, they talk about removing the alcohol, and that once you remove the alcohol, there's a period of healing. Like you've got to, like, your mind has to get right again. Um, and it takes what it takes for people, you know, like some people, they remove alcohol and right away they're like, oh, I'm good to go. And then other people who have had pancreatitis and, you know, diabetes and other health issues, it takes a lot longer to get to a point where you have enough recovery, enough healing to heal your whole body, if that makes sense. And I think it talks about that in here somewhere too, about how it just takes a long time for us to heal from the disease of alcoholism, from all that alcohol has done to our bodies and to our minds. So if you're new in here, uh, give yourself that time, give yourself that space, because it does take a while to get to the point where um, you're feeling all the way like you're present, like you're all the way here. Um, oh, yeah, it took me a really long time. And I don't know why, I don't know how I'm still here, because there have been so many times when I'm like, fuck, this is a lot of work. God, this is so hard. You know, working these steps, going to 10 meetings a week, you know, that is hard. Um, and there's been many times in my life when I'm like, I don't have time for that, you know. But here's my experience. When I put other things above Alcoholics Anonymous and above the work that needs to be done in order to recover, that's the first thing I'm going to lose. You know, like if I put my family above Alcoholics Anonymous, if that becomes my higher power, that's it. I'm done. So what I've had to work really, really hard on is getting to a point where I'm all in. I'm all in on this thing. Um, just to speak about that, my first sponsor in AA, she was like, okay, these are the things that I need you to do. And I was like, all right, well, I've kind of done that in this other program, so okay, I can do that. But then I would find myself like say, okay, so say it's 90-90. That was one of the things she asked me to do. So that's a great example. 90 meetings in 90 days. And I could do I don't know, 7. And then I would be like, oh, do I really I'm so busy. Do I really need to do that? So I had to start my 90 and 90 over many times. Because it was very hard for me to show up. I had just it's ironic that Annie said what she said because and it is true. Today I am able to show up. But before recovery from alcoholism, I was not. It was very, very difficult for me to show up. I've had to learn that here. I've had to practice that here, and it has not been perfect, not in any way, shape, or form. Like I said, what's the bare minimum that I can get away with? Because that's what I'm going to do. And it turns out that today, my bare minimum is 12 hours a week. That is AA. And sometimes it's a little bit more if I'm doing like special events or if I'm doing the roundup stuff or whatever it is I'm doing. Like if I get another sponsee, then it becomes a little bit more that I'm putting into this program. But it is true that you get out of it what you're putting into it. That has also been my experience. So anyway, I end up in AA. Luckily there were quite a few people that I knew already. Because I had been in a recovery group that was connected with an AA group. Um, and so I had heard stories and I always related. I always related to the stories that I was hearing, but I thought that, oh, well, I have all of these outside issues. That's why I relate. Another part of my denial, another part of being a special snowflake. um, it's very hard for me to be a fellow among fellows. And that's one of the things that this program is humbling me so that I could be, is just a person among people and or just an alcoholic among other alcoholics. Um I've struggled with that. I struggled with that in a big way. And part of that was another struggle that I've talked about already, which is this whole higher power thing. Like, how do I believe in a power greater than myself that I have no freaking idea what that is or what that looks like? It seems an impossible task for me. I remember I had a sponsor in AA who was like, well, you could act as if. And I was like, oh, acting as if that seems disingenuous. That doesn't really resonate with who I am. Um, yeah, I don't think that's for me. And I can tell you, I got the results of that. I went down that way. I was like, okay, well, acting as if is not going to work for me. So I'm just going to do it my way. Which is another thing that I struggle with. And so I did it my way. It didn't work. So then I was like, okay, well, this isn't working. So I'm going to give this sponsor suggestion a try. Let's see. Let's see what happens. So I started acting as if I had a higher power that I believed in. And it could not be the higher power of my childhood from when, that punishing God or that, bearded dude in the sky or, like all that stuff was not working for me. So I had to get rid of that and start acting as if I was in a relationship with a higher power who wanted what was best for me. Very, very difficult because there's lots of evidence that I can point to about how God is not for me. So I had to switch perspectives and start focusing on how a higher power could help. or how a higher power would be for me. Like, what qualities does this higher power have? And that's another thing that I've heard in this program is that if you cannot get on board with your higher power the way that it is, we have that ability to God as we understand God. So how can I build a higher power where I can understand that higher power? So I started working on that, and I had to switch sponsors because what was happening for me in my sponsorship relationship is that my sponsor would become my higher power. They would become this person that I was putting on a pedestal. And I started doing, in some of my relationships, I would follow their suggestions to the best of my ability at that time, wherever I was in that moment. And sorry, I got distracted. So I would try to follow this higher power to the best of my ability. Or I would try to follow the suggestions of a sponsor to the best of my ability. And what kind of happened for me sometimes is I would get very resentful if that didn't work out. Like, if I followed this sponsor's direction, then it better fucking work out the way that I think it should work out. And if it doesn't, and I end up with a resentment over it, ooh, that is just not good. So what happened as a result of that is that I had to find a higher power that was not attached to any specific person. I had to find a higher power that was bigger and all encompassing. So where that started for me was, first I had to stop drinking. That was my very first step. I have to stop drinking. So I did. I put that down. Ooh, that reminds me of some other shit that I've had to deal with. Okay. So had to put the drink down. Okay, I did that. And then 2 years to almost the fucking day, my brother dies of this disease. Almost to the day. And he was my only sibling. I kept hoping that my progress and my recovery in Alcoholics Anonymous would be an attraction for him, and that he would actually stop trying to kill himself with alcohol. And then when that didn't happen, I was pissed. I was so angry. God had fucked me over, basically. And that's when that other outside issue came up. I wasn't sleeping, I wasn't eating, I wasn't drinking, I wasn't taking care of myself in any way, shape, or form. My life had become incredibly unmanageable again, even inside this program, doing all the things that I had been doing the whole time. And there was definitely a point where I was just like, I'm gonna quit. I'm just going to stop doing this Alcoholics Anonymous thing because it's not working. It's not giving me what I want. It was giving me what I needed, but it doesn't always give me what I want. Anyway, my solution was to start smoking pot. That was my solution. And I hadn't smoked pot in like 16 years prior to that. But it was the only way that my alcoholic brain could come up with for staying in Alcoholics Anonymous. It was like, I'm not drinking, but I will do this instead, and we'll be all good. And I did end up telling my sponsor after, I think it was like 6 months. I ended up telling my sponsor what was going on, and she was like, well, you're not sober. And that pissed me off. I was like, I have not drank. I haven't drank. Special snowflake. And I went through down this whole rabbit hole with 2 sponsors, actually, with my sobriety, because I was like, yeah, this is an outside issue. You guys cannot tell me what to do. And So that took a while. That took, let's see, hold on. Let me think about this. That took 2 years. It took 2 years for me to get to a point where I was like, okay, this is a problem for me. This is making my life unmanageable again. This is, not sober. And these are the reasons why. But it took me 2 years to get to that space. Um, which is why my sobriety date is August 21st of 2023. Um, so, this whole uh alcoholism in all of its forms really helps me bring myself back. It humbles me for one thing. And I have a very large ego. So it takes a long time for me to get to a place where I'm humble enough. Even this morning when I'm trying to do this meeting, there was like all of these, or that I knew I was going to be speaking. It was like, okay, what am I going to say? I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say this. And I was sitting over there in a different meeting, vibrating because I know how this is supposed to go, and if I can just do it in this special way to have as many people relate as possible, then it's going to be okay. That is not the truth for me. What's the truth for me is that I have to take the time to connect with my higher power. So I went off and I prayed on my knees. Haven't done that in a while, but I did it today because that will bring me to a space. It puts me in a position of humility being on my knees. And for somebody like me, I need that. I need to actually physically put my body in a position to be humble, because otherwise I've got this. I know how to do this. So I spent some time meditating, I spent some time breathing, I spent some time praying. I did all of the things because I can tell you right now I'm a little batshit crazy. That's the truth. Usually I feel pretty spiritually fit, but today, not there. Just not there. And I have to be honest about that, because when I can be honest with you about stuff like that, it loses its power over me. That's one of the things that I've learned in this program, is that when I get honest, like this special snowflake thing is a new thing for me. Like I was very justified in my, how I'm doing recovery. Um, but I'm telling you guys that I'm having a hard time letting go of December 21st, 2018, because that is the day that I have not had a drink since that day. That is the truth. And so I don't want to let that go, but I need to, because it separates me. Anytime I'm thinking that I'm different from you, it separates me. And when I'm separated from you, I'm separated from my higher power, because you're all a part of that. You're not the whole thing. Like one person is not the whole thing anymore for me, but um I need it all. Like everything is my higher power. The freaking rock, the tree, the river, whatever it is that is feeding me spiritually today, that is my higher power. A love. Sometimes it's love, you know. Um there was somebody, I don't know if it was like this other, I think it was this other meeting that I was in today, but where it was talking about, they were talking about oh shit, I lost my train of thought. God, higher power, love. Oh, love. That's it. Thank you. Um, so they were talking about esteemable actions build self-esteem. I don't know if any of you have heard that, but I heard it in here. Esteemable actions build self-esteem. So if I feel good about what I'm doing, if I feel good about how I'm treating you, then I'm okay with myself. If I don't feel good about how I am showing up in a relationship, I don't feel very good about myself. Not at all. And that also is something that disconnects me from my higher power, because love is a piece of that. Love is part of what how my higher power shows me how to be okay without alcohol. You know, like if I can do service for somebody else, if I can get out of myself and my self-pity and my all my crap, you know, if I can get out of that and help somebody else, I don't need alcohol. I just don't. And that's what this program has also shown us and taught us with that 12th step. You know, if we connect with other alcoholics, that's what's going to save us every single time. It reminds me of that story in the Big Book where Bill is talking about he was in Ohio, his business deal had fallen through, not going very well at all, and people are partying in the bar. And he's like, "Hey, that was pretty damn good. I really want to do that. I really want to throw away the recovery that I've had so far." And I don't remember, it wasn't very long. I know that. I don't remember exactly how much recovery he had, but he was at that jumping off place where he was like, am I going to throw it all away or am I going to try to find another alcoholic to help? And he decided to go to the phone booth and pick up the phone and find another alcoholic to help. And he did. He found Bob. And if he hadn't done that, we would not have this program. We would not have all of the tools that I've learned, all of the things that I've gotten to do, all of the love that I've gotten to give, all the service that I would not have any of that if Bill hadn't made that choice right then in that moment. That's a big deal. And it's something that I kind of take for granted sometimes, you know, that I mean, I see it when I'm walking around in the world and people are all kinds of fucked up. I see it then, you know, I'm like, oh, damn, I wish that person had a program. But I don't see it all the time. I don't see what a big miracle that it is for every single one of us to be sitting in this room. Because we were affected and by the disease of alcoholism. We were gravely affected to the point where we could not live life. And for me, what happened for me, my bottom was not being able to show up in my relationships, but my bottom was also I was suicidal. I was incredibly depressed. And it had to do with the esteemable actions. Like I wasn't taking any esteemable actions. So I loathed myself to my very core. And because I hated myself so much, I wanted to die. I just wanted to die. Just let me out. I'm freaking done. So, that's what happened for me. And this year, when I didn't lose 115 pounds because I wanted to, I didn't. What happened is they said, you don't do this, you are gonna die. That's why. That's why. And it forced me. It forced me. There wouldn't have been any other way. It forced me to find a higher power greater than myself, something that could help me. And that's what it is when we're in our disease of alcoholism and we're at our bottom and everything looks bleak and everything sucks. There's nowhere else to turn. It's the last house on the block. And so developing that relationship with a higher power was that was my last ditch effort. And if I didn't do it, I was going to die. Even in recovery, even with a program, even working as hard as I freaking could. So I beefed up my meetings in Alcoholics Anonymous. And I started to pray. And I got to a different place with that second step, came to believe that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity. I've been peeling the onion, you know, I've been getting deeper and deeper in my recovery. And it shows. I know that it shows. But it has not been easy. It's not been easy, especially like a higher power is this like intangible thing. it's not like I can like the sponsor thing, like putting that sponsor on the pedestal, that was pretty easy. I could do that. And she would say things like, I'm God with skin on, which really creeped me the fuck out. But really, that's what I needed in the beginning. I needed somebody to just tell me what to do because I was just like, did not know what to do. So having that person but then my spiritual growth, I had to grow from that. I couldn't stay there. I had to actually have some kind of abstract higher power. And it's not abstract because, there's a lot of things that are encompassed in having a higher power of my own understanding, like love, like service, like taking esteemable action. There's a lot of like all of your shares and your experience is that's how I hear my higher power is through you guys. So there were a lot of things that helped with that. But I don't I don't change unless my back's up against the wall. I won't do anything different unless I'm forced to. There was a speaker who would talk about being motivated by fear and being motivated by pain. And then at some point in his recovery, he got to a place where he was motivated by joy. And that's what I'm shooting for right now. I want to be motivated by joy. I want to give service to other people because it makes me feel good and because I love it and because it brings me joy and it makes me happy. That's where I want to be. Mm-hmm. It's been difficult the last couple of weeks because especially with the love and service. The reason why it's been so difficult is because there's always this part that will come up that says, but what are you getting out of it? Are you getting enough? Are you getting what you need? Are people showing up for you? Here you are showing up for all of these people and you're talking to them and you're being of service and you're doing, all the things that you're supposed to do, but what are you getting back? That's my diseased brain goes back to that place of what am I going to get out of it? Am I getting enough out of it? So that's been a lot of what's been going on for me. Like I have been showing up for people who have not been showing up for me. And when that happens, I'm like, fuck this. I do not want to do this. I want to do, I want to do what I want to do. I want people to show up for me. I want, it's like, I want. The selfish self-centeredness will come back. And then I got to start all over. Not all over, I shouldn't say, because the gift of this program is that I know today that all I need to do is put the work in. It works if you work it, you know? And even when you don't want to, even when life is happening on life's terms, what I found, and I think I'm going to actually end with this. Life on life's terms sometimes sucks. It is sometimes a horrific experience that pisses me off and makes me not want to do this. The great gift about this program is this. Acceptance is the answer to all my problems today. When I am disturbed, it is because I find some person, place, thing, or situation, some fact of my life unacceptable to me. And I can find no serenity until I accept that person, place, thing, or situation as being exactly the way it's supposed to be at this moment. Nothing, absolutely nothing happens in God's world by mistake. Until I could accept my alcoholism, I could not stay sober. Unless I accept life completely on life's terms, I cannot be happy. I need to concentrate not so much on what needs to be changed in the world as on what needs to be changed in me and in my attitudes. The the reason why that is so incredibly powerful and meaningful for me today is because whenever I release into God's will, into what's supposed to happen, I find that even if it's the shittiest experience that I could possibly think of, I grow from it. I learn from it. I become a better person. You know, in that prayer, the 7-step prayer, it talks about removing all of your character defects so that you can be of use to other people. That's the point. And I find that I'm becoming more and more the person that I want to be when I can see the gifts that I'm getting out of that shitty situation. So I'm really grateful to be here. I'm really grateful that I had this opportunity to talk this morning. And thank you all for being here. That's all I have.